Drugs in high school, not a big surprise to anyone, including parents these days, but there seems to be a drug epidemic in Orange County. 11 students from the class of 2008 at Dana Point High School have died from drug overdoses. 11 now. There is a full-time drug counselor on staff there now addressing the prescription drug and heroin addictions. Heroin and prescription drugs. It seems like such a wide chasm there. With me in studio, addiction expert Dr. Gregory Smith. He's here now to give parents help. The parents in Dana Point, I believe, were shocked when they found out that some of the kids there were doing heroin.
Yeah, it's people think heroin's an old drug that was from 30, 40 years ago, but it's made a huge resurgence.
And people think of heroin as being a street drug, not, you know, kids who are in high school. They're way too young to get involved with heroin.
Well, it is a street drug, but here's what's happening. OxyContin, which is just everywhere right now, is getting really, really expensive. So when people can't afford OxyContin, they end up going to heroin.
What do kids start with these days, and when do they start?
That's a tough question.
What's the gateway drug here?
Well, I mean, I think people often blame marijuana, but I don't think it's really marijuana. I think it's really the prescription pills that are found in most drug cabinets in everybody's houses. And it starts off a little Vicodin, a little Xanax, and people start doing these drugs, and the next thing you know, they can't get enough of it that way. They buy it on the street. Like I said, OxyContin is very expensive, and we have a flood of heroin right now because it's coming over from the Middle East because of the war in Afghanistan, believe it or not. So we have high-quality heroin on the streets right now that is cheaper than OxyContin, so we have this resurgence of people doing heroin.
Okay, we could talk about that for a long time, about where it's coming from and what's going on, but as a parent, you need to know whether or not your kid's doing prescription drugs or something much more serious.
Exactly.
So what are the signs?
Well, you know, as a parent, you have to get involved. You can't just be a friend to your teenager. You have to ask questions. You have to look into their rooms, into their backpacks. You have to be involved. But I think you have to pay attention. If you have medications in your drug cabinet that are missing, that's a sign. I think what the mistake a lot of people make is they'll get a Vicodin prescription for a dental procedure or some minor procedure. They use 3 or 4 pills. They put the rest of the bottle in the drug cabinet and it stays there. They get a little Ambien to sleep, put the rest, it stays there. They get some Xanax because they're a little anxious and it stays there. And then you have this treasure trove basically of medications. And the other people are saying, you know, your mom has Xanax, go get some Xanax out of your cabinet. And that's how it begins. That's
how it begins. Physical signs of your teenager on something.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest signs are they acting different. I mean, people know how their children are. If they're sleeping, oversleeping, missing classes, angry outbursts, things like that. Just personality changes are often what you see first in people that are taking mood-altering substances. All these things change the way a person acts, the way they look, the way they feel.
Are you surprised to hear 11 kids out of one class ODing on heroin?
You know, I'm really not. I mean, I see this every day. I think, you know, 3 weeks ago, in the same week, and I'm not talking about patients, these are just people that I know personally that don't know each other. 3 different 21-year-olds, 2 of them died, and another one was found in the bathroom from an overdose of heroin. And these were all kids that were coming from good homes, professional parents. So this is not the crack cocaine thing we saw in the 80s. Mm-hmm. This is not a street thing. It's not something that is in someone else's neighborhood. This is everyone's neighborhood, regardless of how much money the parents make.
All right, before we go, I need to know, you're putting together a documentary. Tell me a little bit about it.
I'm an executive producer for a documentary called American Addict, and it's really, it's going to be in theaters in 2012. And it really attacks this whole thing. It really explains how we got here from both immediate standpoint, government standpoint, big pharmaceutical standpoint, how the doctors, how it all gels to really make us a nation of addicts.
Is there a solution here?
There's always a solution. But the problem is that we've always focused on the supply, cutting the supply of drugs, trying to make more regulations. But if you don't cut demand, because people want these medications. If you don't educate people and cut demand, actually preventing drugs from coming in will raise the value, and there's always going to be someone there that's going to supply the demand.
Okay, doctor, thank you. Very quickly.
No problem.
Who's the youngest person you've seen using drugs out there?
11, 12 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Okay.
Film's coming out in 2012?
2012 is going to be the film festivals in hopefully Sundance or Tribeca in January. Then it's going to be in theaters at the probably late summer, early fall 2012.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another story out of Orange County today, a bee attack. 4 men hospitalized from that. Details on that when we come right back.